Hello, Empowered Warriors. Welcome to episode 8. And oh my goodness, I am laughing because I sat down to prepare this episode with a totally different subject matter in mind. But then as I was starting to get the script ready, I realized, okay, what was coming out of me was not the subject matter that I had planned, but something entirely different. But I just went with it because it felt like the right thing to do. I was in flow, it felt good. Whereas every time I tried to go back to the original plan of talking about hiding, which I really do want to do an episode about at some point, because I think it's so important. If you have a life, if you have a business, there are so many people out there that are hiding, and it's not just in the traditional sense of choosing to not show up at a party, or if you're feeling social anxiety and you avoid certain things. That is a way to hide, the way we hide physically. But there are other ways that we hide that was really only came into my awareness very, very recently. And once I realized how I was hiding and how I was not showing up in my life and business, my life changed and did a complete 180. So I do think it's important to talk about hiding, but apparently it's not today. So stay tuned. I will talk about hiding at a different time, and trust me, this is going to be a very important episode. This episode, episode 8, is going to also be a very important episode, as will the hiding. So please keep your eye open. Maybe I will do it next week, but I really am being guided by my intuition and what feels alive. And what was feeling really alive today was to record an episode on Chinese medicine in relation to the heart channel and the season of summer, where here in the United States, it's summertime. I know it's not summer all over the world. I do have an international following. So if it is winter where you live and not summer, just take some notes, and I will most likely record a podcast on winter and the season of the kidney at a different time, because I do think it's such an important, overlooked time of the year. So, but right now we're going to talk about the heart in relationship to summertime. And so stay tuned. And another thing I want to mention is that I have a script, but I'm not feeling inclined. I'm basically not looking at it, which is really weird. I write all my scripts for my podcast and then I just read them, but I was feeling really called to just come onto the microphone today and just talk to you about the season of the heart in summertime. So if this is feeling less scripted, it's because it is less scripted. Bear with me. I do have a wonderful editor, but he may not edit everything. I encourage him to not make it sound perfect. So this is me. Maybe unscripted, maybe partially scripted. We'll see how it goes. So I hope you enjoy. And even though I'm not practicing Chinese medicine as much these days, the medicine will always have a place in my heart. Get it? Wah wah. So here goes. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Empowered Warrior Podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am an intuitive coach, acupuncturist, and Chinese herbalist. This podcast is all about empowerment, meaning how you can maintain your personal power in order to have the best life beyond your imagination. An empowered warrior is someone who has the identity of a person who is healthy, radiant, and free from all suffering, and has the tools ready and available to move through life's obstacles with confidence, ease, and a sense of freedom. In this podcast, I bring over 16 years experience in Chinese medicine, countless years of self-development, and a passion for helping others find their personal power. I will be discussing just a few of my favorite topics regarding health from a Chinese medicine perspective, brain habits, and spirituality, so that you can quickly pave your pathway to freedom and be free from the chains that have kept you stuck. My intention with this podcast is to serve as a guide for warriors who want to form a healthy foundation of body, mind, and spirit, and sustain it by changing who they are being from the inside and having a stronger connection to their higher selves. My goal is to help students end the unnecessary suffering that they place on themselves by having poor health habits, negative thought loops, and a lack of self-worth. I'm so happy that you're here. Hello, Empowered Warriors. So, as you probably noticed in my intro today, I'm feeling a little punchy. And I'm not sure if it's the rain here in New England or the fact that practically the entire solar system is in retrograde right now. We are approaching a full moon, I think on Friday or Saturday. It's Tuesday when I'm recording this. And also I want to tell you something very, very exciting that's happening in my personal life. And that is that I've fallen in love. I've fallen in love. But I won't talk about that yet because I want to talk about the heart in Chinese medicine. So if you want to know more about my love story, you have to wait until the end. I'm really sorry. Sorry, not sorry. So you may or may not know, as I mentioned earlier, summer is the season of the heart in Chinese medicine. So if you're feeling the effects of love or the effects of lack of love, either with another person or especially with yourself, right? Because the most important relationship we have in our life is the relationship we have with ourself. That is our foundation. Then that could be due to some kind of disharmony with your heart channel. In Chinese medicine, the emotion associated with the heart is joy. So you could be feeling joy, which is, just if you're just feeling joy, you're feeling normal amounts of joy. Joy comes and goes. It's not overly excessive joy. It's not completely the opposite where you're feeling depressed or angry. That is the heart imbalance when it comes to joy in relationship to the heart channel. Lack of joy is when the heart qi is in deficiency. And an excess of joy is when the heart is in excess. So in Chinese medicine, that's how we measure our pathologies. We say that either somebody is in balance or they are excess or they are deficient. So yes, there is a such thing as too much joy. And you might know somebody who is like this. I had a patient who was like this, and I will describe her just so that you have some context. She was somebody who, she came in, she had, and I'm describing her, but it's just be aware that this was my observation of her. I'm not being critical. She really came in because she needed some help with balancing her heart channel. She came in for weight loss, and she had this presentation of a very round face with very rosy, shiny cheeks and a red nose. And she was not coming in for her emotions. She was coming in for something entirely different. I think I said weight loss or something like that, which I like to say releasing weight. I hate that term, weight loss. It's just so derogatory, but more on that maybe on a different podcast. So she was the type of person who was always giggling. She would laugh. In Chinese medicine, we call that inappropriate laughter. She would just laugh at things that were not funny. So, those people that would just, it's almost like they're laughing so that they don't have to talk, or that they don't need to, so they don't have to dig deep. They just laugh. And it's that inappropriate giggling that just, it's like she's laughing, but it wasn't funny. So that is an example of somebody who has an excess of joy. And chances are, and this did happen, but when you see somebody like that, chances are they aren't genuinely joyous, right? So she came to see me for probably a good 6 to 7 weeks. And she came in presenting with this overly jolly, excessively jolly, joyous presentation. And then by her last 2 treatments, maybe her last 3 treatments, she started to shift and go in the opposite direction. So that excessive joy became more inward, and she started showing up with lack of joy. So it almost felt like she burned out whatever excesses she has, because excesses are never a good idea, right? We know that from everyday life, that an excess of drugs and alcohol is usually not a good idea. I don't think it's probably ever a good idea for most people. So excess of joy, excess of even the emotions that we associate as positive are not healthy when it's not in balance. So people who are excessively happy, for example, those people, it's like, oh, a lot of people, we start to pick up on that energy, like, oh, it just doesn't feel right? And then that oftentimes that person, and this happened with my patient, she showed up completely depressed, not wanting to talk at all, not wanting to be treated. She stopped coming, which was kind of unfortunate, because there was an opportunity, right, for her to release whatever was holding her back from releasing the weight and the baggage, right, and the burden, whatever was going on with her. I keep this confidential because she is a patient of mine. But unfortunately, she did stop coming. And, I guess what I want to drive home here is, this is the season of the heart, and there's a lot of heart disharmony going on right now in the world. And we can say there's a lot more now, but I don't know. I think it's always kind of gone on. There's always been this lack of joy or excess of joy, trying to balance out the lack of joy, right? Because we live in a society where it's not always appropriate to express how we're feeling. If you're somebody that is a solopreneur, and I tend to attract solopreneurs, mainly people that are wellness professionals, a lot of times we can recognize these imbalances and what they look like, right? A lot of us are trained that way. We know when something's off. And even if you're not somebody who works in healthcare or wellness, it's kind of easy to spot, is it not? And one of the ways I work with people is by incorporating the principles of Chinese medicine. Even though I am giving up my practice next month, but I just love Chinese medicine so much. It's so amazing. It's this ancient medicine that's thousands of years old, but it is still so relevant. I remember going to acupuncture school and learning about these pathologies, because so much of Chinese medicine pathology relates to nature, the environment, the 5 phases. And when you start to see, oh, like that makes perfect sense. When you start to realize that not every single human being is a one-size-fits-all. There's 2 different patients with depression, for example, and each patient can get a totally different treatment, because not everybody's the same. It's not one size fits all. Like depression can show up as a liver disharmony, or depression can show up as a heart disharmony. So I just love Chinese medicine for that reason. And I love it so much that even though as I mentioned, my practice is closing in August of this year, one of the pillars in my business is yin-yang balance. the balance of the sun and the moon, the male and the female, water and fire, and that's just to name a few. Yin and Yang describe the result when the universe is in balance with itself and when it's not in balance with itself. So we, as microcosms of the universe, are not exempt, and we, as individuals, feel the effects of a lack of balance. So getting back to the heart, I'm seeing a lot of heart chi imbalances right now. And as a side note, this is one of the joys of podcasting. Speaking of joy in the heart, right? I come on here to talk about a certain subject, and then all of a sudden I'm being guided to go off topic. And I go with it only to learn how perfectly imperfect this tangent is. Summer, the heart, balance, imbalance. At a time of year where in my interpretation there are many distractions of summer, I have noticed in my work that summertime is a great time to do the inner work. And here is why. As I mentioned before, summer is a favorite season for many people, right? You would agree with that. Most people love summertime. And in many places in the world, it's a warmer time. The days are longer, school is out. And there are those, summer romances if you are young and in love. And I won't forget to tell you my in-love story, okay? So with clients and even in my acupuncture practice, I always take the stance that the time to work on improving yourself is when you are feeling overall pretty good. So my allergy patients would always start their treatments in January. My fertility patients started their sessions a year before they wanted to start trying to conceive. And my migraine patients started treatments mid-cycle if their migraines showed up at PMS time or during the menses. Obviously, like I said earlier, things are perfectly imperfect. We don't live in a perfect world. So did every single client follow my recommendations? No. But the clients who did plan ahead and prepared were always the ones who felt best and had the most successful, longest lasting results. But what I would often notice in my acupuncture practice is that people would use summer as an excuse to not get their treatments, or they use summer as an excuse for everything. Not following their health regimen, not being consistent with their meditation practice, or when they would allow their boundaries that they work so hard to develop crumble beneath them. This one is huge. And I get it, right? You might be listening to this and really arguing for this fact. Summer is the time for fun. And I get it. Summer is the time for fun, is it not? For those of us who live in climates where it's mostly winter or cooler weather, summer is really a time to just let loose and have a good time. But here is what I noticed, and trust me, my intention is to not get preachy on you, but to inform, inspire, and perhaps help you think of things differently. What I noticed is that patients would come back from their vacations and summer plans after a summer of breaking boundaries with themselves. And not everybody does this, but those that did do this would come back. They would often come back from their summer vacations. Fall would happen. They would be scrambling to get the kids back to school. They would be stressed, sleep deprived, and they hadn't fully recovered from their summer vacation. You know that expression, I go on vacation and then I have to recover from being on vacation? So those were these people. These were the people that were showing up in the clinic. They were often feeling more stressed than when they stopped coming in June before they left for their vacations. And a lot of their pains came back. So fall is a time of the year where the energy changes into a more of a frantic, busy energy for many. Am I right? It's the season of the lung. The emotion associated with fall is grief. And because these patients did not hold on to their agreements and their boundaries with themselves, they came back from summer feeling exhausted, sick. For those that have businesses, they felt severely behind in their businesses, resentful of their in-laws or family members for being too demanding of their time, etc., etc., etc. Can you relate to this? Because I feel like even as I'm reading this, I can relate to this. Like, this was me not too long ago. Now, if you are a healthcare practitioner or a solopreneur who helps people, you might say, well, that is why we're here. We're here to help these clients get back into balance after a summer of throwing off their balance, or maybe in their interpretation, they were having just a lot of fun. And remember what I said earlier about balance, right? So that can relate to fun too. It's great to have a good time. It's great to have fun. It's great to let loose, but just remember the yin and the yang balance. So thank goodness that healing professionals exist to help people, right, in this very special way. They do bring people back into balance. But if you're a solopreneur and you're finding that you can relate to many of the things mentioned, that you give your power away in the summer or any time, you aren't consistent, and you are not getting the things in life that you feel you deserve, then consider this. Your business is a reflection of who you are being. Your life is a reflection of who you are being. And here's the thing, and consider this. This can be applied not only to summer, but any time of the year. What is the benefit to you putting yourself off in the summer? Your business off in the summer for a few months. So some people are like, oh, it's just for a month or two, I'll be fine. Okay, but what is the benefit for you doing that? Where do you see yourself at the end of the summer or early fall? Even later in the year, if you don't spend, even if it's just a little bit of time on yourself and in your business every single day, at the very least, maintaining your boundaries. So I work with a lot of people in helping them form really strong boundaries. And oftentimes when we get off the wagon, we're all human beings. We do that sometimes. But even if it's just 10 minutes a day of being intentional, of doing that meditation practice or that breathing exercise, or reading from a self-help book, or doing something that makes you feel powerful, right? So where do you see yourself if you decide to not do that, not stay consistent with your habits? So most people, when asked that question, will respond that there is absolutely no benefit to not honoring themselves, their health, or their boundaries. But trust me, there is a benefit. So here's the takeaway. If you're like most successful entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, you want to have a life that's full of abundance while helping the people you want to help. If that's the case, I invite you to consider, if you are not in the habit of consistent habits to build and scale your business to the 6 and 7 figure range, I invite you to use this time of the summer when most people feel good, with all of that extra vitamin D and longer days, to secure some good, solid habits so that you are in good shape for fall, so that you aren't scrambling later, so that you are feeling healthy, confident, and balanced now. Does that make sense? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? I really invite you to use this time to really tap into your truest, most authentic self and put your heart into your business, into your life, into your health and well-being, into your inner peace. For many, this is the perfect time because it's just summer has this vibe of being slower and more relaxed. And if you're feeling like your yin and your yang are out of balance, then maybe this is a time to work on some of your imbalances so that you are ready to go in the fall, so that you are at peace and you're not frazzled, so you can have that freedom. If you are one of those people that freedom is one of your highest values, this is how you get to freedom, warriors. This is how you do it. It is taking little tiny steps every single day, even if you don't want to, even if it's summertime, even if you're noticing your heart chi is out of balance. All of these things are opportunities for growth. Because what is on the other side of these imbalances? What is on the other side of you not wanting to do these things? Like, just as a side note, I had a hard time. I love podcasting, but I had a bit of a hard time today showing up and doing this podcast. Why? Because I had writer's block. Why? Because there were other things that I needed to do. But I am committed to showing up and getting this podcast out to you every Wednesday. I'm feeling a little self-conscious because this is not the work that I usually do for you guys. I'm kind of all over the place. What is the message here? But I'm trusting that this is the message that at least one person needs to hear. So if one person is impacted by hearing this podcast today, I've done my job. I am here in service. So I want to ask that same question to you. What are those things that you need to do, and who do you need to be so that you can make little baby steps every single day so that you can go back to your fall or go back to your business or return to yourself, whenever that is, and be in alignment so that you can serve the people that you want to serve, so that you can show up authentically, so that you have those strong boundaries and sense of self formed, so that you're not taking work that you don't really want, so that you're not underpricing yourself, so that you can ask for your worth with confidence and ease without having to worry about what other people think, so that you can show up doing your business, not having a care about what other people think, because those that you are going to impact are the ones that matter. Does that make sense? So, yes, I'm going to go off of my soapbox now, and I'm going to tell you about my love story, because that's why you showed up, right? You wanted to hear about the love story. That's why you waited until the whatever point it is in the podcast at this point, the 30-minute mark. You want to know who I've fallen in love with, because after all, it is the season of the heart. So I've fallen in love, warriors, with a hula hoop. So last night was my 4th virtual hula hoop lesson. And I am finding myself getting really into watching videos of hoop dance, which I guess is also called flow. But oh my God, I am pretty certain that I have found my activity. And I've tried a lot of things. I mean, I had the kitty hula hoop when I was little, and I always loved it. But hooping is like taking it to a whole new level. It's getting it off the waist. It's spinning the hoop around your arms and your legs and twirling it around like a baton. And it just feels so freeing to do it. And the first time I saw hooping that I remember was when we went out for my husband's birthday to see this band play at this place called the Bull Run in Shirley, Mass. There was this band called Mike Gerard's Big Swinging Thing. And my parents were in town for Thanksgiving. My husband's birthday is right around Thanksgiving. And we had just bought tickets. We just bought the tickets last minute. We had no idea. We didn't know anything about the band. We're just like, let's try this place. I heard it's a good time. And they were seriously so fun, this band. They were kind of quirky, like in a really good way. They played fun music. They had a horn line. I don't know, they probably had like 18 people on stage. They had 2 singers, a ton of instruments, I think 2 drummers. And the lead singer changed his outfit like 3 or 4 times. It was pretty awesome. And they had hoopers. So that's what hula hoop dancers, performers call themselves, hoopers. And even better, these hoopers had LED hoops that changed colors and patterns, and I was so intrigued. I was just totally smitten by watching these guys. And after that, my life forever changed. So I actually was able to connect with one of the hoopers on Instagram. And I found out that she taught virtually, and here I am. I'm taking lessons this summer. So even though I talked about staying consistent and showing up for yourself every single day in your habits, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be having fun. So in addition to everything I talked about, showing up, being consistent, it's really important to celebrate those small wins and have fun every single day. And guys, I am having so much fun with hooping. Last night we practiced hooping around the neck. Around the neck. And I did it. And since I started taking these lessons, I've been watching a lot of videos on hooping lately. And when I saw the hoop going around the neck on a video, I was a little freaked out. But with Nikki's guidance, Nikki, my teacher, I just did it. And it's seriously so fun and it's great exercise. I feel like I've released weight already since I started. I feel lighter. I just feel energetically different. So in the spirit of the heart also teaches us to find joy and have fun. And it's all about balance, is it not? So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode today. If it felt a little disjointed, it's because, I don't know, I guess I could blame it on my heart chi. Maybe my heart chi needs a little balance. I should give myself an acupuncture treatment. But I feel so much gratitude for you, for my audience, for my warriors, for those of you that are in my Facebook group. I am pivoting the business. As I mentioned earlier, I do talk more about business now more than I used to, but I still feel that, if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur, you might already know that when you have a business you love, there's no difference between life and business. I am doing what I'm meant to do on this planet. I am working my dharma, my life purpose, and that's probably the same for you. So even though I talk business, in my interpretation, business is also life. It's a lifestyle. So if you don't have a business or you don't have a business right now, I really feel that you can benefit from this podcast. And I would love to hear what you think about this podcast so far. It's already been 2 months. Is that possible? Episode 8. Okay. Not quite 2 months, but I've been doing this now for 8 episodes, and I'd love to know what you think. So please leave a review on iTunes, especially if you found something meaningful in this podcast or some takeaways. And then tag me on Instagram at I am Angela Noel and let me know what your takeaways are. Let me know what you're learning. And I'm so grateful for you, warriors, and I wish you an amazing day, an amazing week, and I will see you next time on episode 9. Take good care. Thank you so much for listening to the Empowered Warrior podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to have you as a listener. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and would like to help others pave their pathway to freedom, end their disempowerment and suffering, and become an empowered warrior, please share this podcast with your friends and family. Also, it is my intention to help humanity grow and evolve to their highest potential. So if you really enjoy what you're hearing, please help me spread the word by leaving a review in iTunes. Thank you again, and I am so grateful to be able to serve you in this very exciting way.